So how nice would it be to stand over the ball, line up, have a simple routine and knock it straight in the middle of the hole. So I think we can all agree Cameron Smith's final round of 64 to win the Open Championship was an incredible round. But it was this club over the week that gained him nearly 12 full shots over the field in strokes gained. And on the final day, beat Rory by 5 shots with the putter. Now, I'm going to show you just why. Might surprise you what he does, but this could just make you putt like Cameron Smith. So for a while now, I think Cameron Smith has had the reputation of being one of, if not the best putter in world golf. And what he does is actually quite unusual. And when you listen to him talk about his putting, I think it's something that a lot of club golfers could take on board, introduce into their game and really start making some putts. So what do we notice with Cameron? So the first thing is, it's quite deliberate in his setup in the sense that he kind of aims the putter down the line that he wants the ball to set, has his left hand on his left leg, and then when everything's set, he gets that left hand in, has one final look at the hole, and then hits his putt. Clearly with a bit more success than me. But what I find quite interesting with putting is you only need to be good at 3 skills to be a good putter. You need to be able to read the green, set the ball off on line, and hit the ball at the right speed. And yet so much is made about, do I get my putter straight back and through? Do I have an arc? Is it a big arc? Is it a minimal arc? Well, when you listen to Cameron, he doesn't really talk about any of that stuff. He just talks about aim the putter down the line and just hit the ball on that line, gets his speed right. But interestingly, no practice swings at all. So he's very much about setting up, like we said, get everything lined up. And the reason that he keeps that hand on that lead leg is to keep his shoulders nice and square so that as he sets up, he knows everything's down the line he wants. He has one final look at the hole and then hits the putt. So even though that didn't go in there for me, it's a very interesting way of putting because I think it's a much more reactionary way to the target. And most pros, and even a lot of club players you would say, me included at the moment, I tend to get to the ball and at the side I look at the hole. I have 2 practice strokes looking at the hole to get a feel for how big a swing. It's not so much technically, but how big a swing I'm going to make, and then once I'm there, repeat what I've just practiced. Okay, so still didn't go in. But it's an interesting one because I think the practice stroke can be great. But I always say to golfers that struggle with distance control, if I gave you the ball and just said roll it into the hole, they would literally look at the hole, roll the ball down, and if it doesn't go in, it'll usually finish fairly close. But what we don't do is we don't get the ball in our hand, take it out the way, have some practice swings with our hand, and then repeat what we've just felt. Because we've learnt to roll and throw, probably as a young child, so our instinctiveness and reacting to the target can actually be really, really good. So I would say an exaggerated version of what Cameron Smith does is kind of what Jordan Spieth does, certainly when he's 10 footing in. So he'll get set up over the ball. Jordan will have practice strokes, but once he's set up there, he'll look at the hole and he'll hit the putt while he's looking at the hole. And again, this is a great drill for working on speed control. So I think the only other golfer I've seen a little bit like Cameron Smith was Aaron Baddeley years ago. Used to kind of get his ball set, whether it be with a line or just nice and clear. Pick your line. So for me here, left centre is a good line. So we're going to concentrate getting that putter down the line we want. Then once the body's in position, from there, have a look at the hole, and as the eyes come back to the ball, hit the putt. That was actually going a little bit the other way. So grass isn't a perfect surface, but I think for most golfers, sometimes the practice stroke doesn't represent at all what they're about to do. I see guys from 10, 12 foot here kind of making big swings. I see them making tiny little swings. So it's definitely something that I think has got its advantages, that once you're lined up, make yourself more reactionary to that target. And if you can start rolling the ball online, eventually I'll get one to go in, but it can be difficult. And I think you could start closer if you wanted, you could start further away, but try and make it that the last thought is looking at the hole, knowing where that target is. And I think it's amazing how good we are, once we know where a target is, us understanding how big a swing to make. So you can get yourself set, when everything's nice and square, one long look at the hole, back and go. And it definitely feels a little bit pacey. Definitely feels like I've got less chance to think about everything. And I would say for most golfers, especially when they get close on here, they're so bothered about making a perfect technical stroke that they stand over it and it's like, right, should I go back this far? And I've got to keep this left wrist in this position, and they don't touch the hole. So if you can just be more and more reactionary, so like I said, if you're someone who uses the line on the ball, line it up. For me personally, I like to see nothing on top of my ball. Personally, I like to get my hands on the club as I put them behind. And then once I'm there, try having a look at the target, back to the ball, and stroke the putt. And it does feel, even if these were all going in at the moment, this feels very, very different for me. You know, I am somebody who is very comfortable with his routine of 2 practice strokes and then hitting the ball, but it's definitely great. And I think back to when I was a kid, when potentially I used to hold more putts. I think I was much more reactive to the target. I'd get myself set, quick look at the target and hit the putt. It's the wind just making that one go that way. But if you can stand there, and particularly if you can find a putt where you can see how that breaks, each one of those is kind of broken slightly differently, you can set up. So we're going to go right edge, got my putter perfectly down the line that I want, one long look at the hole and hit the putt. And I'm not promising that you're necessarily going to hole out as well as Cameron Smith, but I do think most people, the green reading is completely down to before you hit the putt. The ability to set the ball off online is, can you just literally get the putter back to where you set up? Most golfers are pretty good at that without thinking about a lot of technique. And then the distance control is all down to the length of your swing. But if you're somebody who doesn't know where that hole is, you could be thinking about perfect technique, and the technique could be great. And if the speed's wrong, the ball's still not going to go in. So it can definitely take a bit of practice, but I think most golfers are better being quicker over the ball rather than slower. So once that's set up, one last look at the target, roll the putt, and finally, one goes in. It wasn't to win the Open, but it just might help you put more like Cameron Smith and reduce your scores.